Have you ever felt so exhausted and drained that you're left questioning if you're burning out? Hi, I'm Flic Taylor, and my passion for burnout and self-care came about when I became a mental health writer who'd lost her mental health to extreme burnout. I know, the irony is not lost on me. Join me as I host Everyday Burnout Conversations, the honest podcast that shares the stories of others from all walks of life as they recover from, manage and avoid burnout by prioritising their mental health and well-being. Expect to hear fascinating conversations, plus positive and actionable tips and tricks that can help you make the simple life changes your mental health will thank you for. Episodes will be delightfully wrapped up in some epic truths and great humour. So, enjoy! Hello. I can't believe I'm sat here and about to say welcome to season 3 of Everyday Burnout Conversations. How fantastic is that? And thank you so much for being here. Now, I've got an absolute corker of an episode to kick off this third season with, because today I get to share a brilliant chat with the fabulous Becky Pell, who some of you may also know as the Rock and Roll Yogi. Becky is a sound engineer with 25 plus years experience in the live music industry. She is regularly in charge of monitors at Glastonbury, good old Glasto, as well as having toured with Muse, Kylie Minogue, Bill Wyman, James Brown, Jennifer Lopez, Natalie Imbruglia, Westlife, Take That, and Anastacia, to name just a few. Now, originally from the UK, Becky now lives in Australia, and as a qualified yoga therapist, not only does she love teaching yoga to the musicians and artists she travels with, but between tours, you can also find her running yoga retreats around the world. And she's the author of the beautiful book, Yoga Journey, A Contemporary Guide to a Timeless Tradition. Now, I've been following Becky on Instagram for a good few years now, and I had so much fun chatting with her that it quickly became one of those conversations. I completely lost track, basically, that I was recording, and I found myself delving into a good old heart-led chat to learn more and soak up all of Becky's wisdom. In this episode, we talk about questioning our coping skills by asking, is this nourishing or numbing me? How she practices self-care and healthy habits while working on the road. Her top 3 suggestions for her clients recovering from burnout, as well as the benefits of yoga and breath work, and her motivational tips for getting you on that yoga mat. It's such a good episode. So without further ado, let's crack on, and I hope you enjoy listening to Becky's wisdom as much as I did. Becky, this is such a treat to be able to chat to you today, Doug, because I've been following you on Instagram for a good few years, and I love your account because I'm nosy, so I love to see what you're doing as a sound engineer and on tour and doing all that. And then I've also learned so much from you in regards to your yoga practice, and I was so excited that you brought a book out. And so the fact that I'm sat here chatting to you today, this is great, because I just know your wisdom, it's going to change some lives today. It really is, because I think you're really going to be able to educate us about yoga and recovering from burnout and yoga from beyond the mat. That's what I'm really looking to get all your wisdom today. So thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. This is really exciting. It's great to meet you, and it's lovely to hear that you've been following the gram for a while. So
yes.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Oh, it's fantastic. So you know what? Because I read one of your blog posts where you were talking about how, as a sound engineer and as a yoga therapist instructor, how actually they're not too different. They're the same, kind of approaches to life. So I tell you what, why don't you just start us off by saying kind of what you do and why you do it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a live sound engineer, and I basically make my living touring with bands, and have done for, oh my God, I've been in the business for like 26 years now, basically my whole adult life. And the role that I play on tour, there's generally 2 engineers on a tour, and one is the front of house engineer. They mix the sound for the audience. I'm a monitor engineer, so I mix the sound for the band on stage. So when you see people with the little earpieces in or with little speakers on stage, I'm the person at the side of the stage with a mixing desk, and each person on stage has their own bespoke mix of what they need to hear to play their best gig. So it's a very collaborative process. It's very involved, up the pointy end with the performance.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a real parallel between doing that and the yoga side of my life, because with both of them, I'm trying to help somebody find their most comfortable environment, whether that's in their performance space or in their body, mind, and life. So there's huge parallels, even though the actual modalities are very different.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And how long have you been practicing yoga for? Is this something you've been doing your whole life, or did you? Oh, really?
No,
okay.
I was actually in my 30s before I found yoga.
Were you?
Yeah, so it'll be about 15 years now since I first got on a yoga mat and went, oh my God, I love this.
Yes. It's funny, I was reading Kylie Minogue's book, More Than a Woman, last year. Isn't it good? I bloody love her too. Isn't she fantastic? And in her book last year, it came out last year, and she was saying how she kind of goes on her mat every night, 20 minutes, because she said, you just need to stretch and move like a child. She basically said, you just need to fuck around on a mat, and then you just feel so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're on the road, I'm guessing yoga really helps you.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
So generally what I'll do, because we travel, generally on a tour, you'll do 3 shows back to back. So you'll travel overnight between cities on a tour bus. So it's long days. I mean, typically my working day starts at about 10 a.m. and finishes about midnight. So I'll get on the bus after I finish work, go to sleep, and then wake up in the next city. And typically what I'll do is go into the venue, find somewhere to go and have a shower. But before I have my shower, I'll take my mat in there with me and, just find an empty dressing room, do, say, 40 minutes of yoga, and then have my shower and then start my working day. And before I've done all that, I've already been out for a walk and just got a bit of headspace and away from the tour, because otherwise it can be too all-encompassing, and I find it really useful to get some space from it. But I mean, that little carving out of time for myself is absolutely critical to me being able to, because I love what I do, but it is a high pressure environment and it's long days, and it just brings some balance into my life, that I'm taking care of myself and doing something that makes me feel really good, so that I can, deliver the best job to whoever's employing me.
Yeah, because I guess it must be difficult in the sense of, yes, you have a routine, but it's not like you ever leave your working space, as it were. Exactly. You're not like going home, putting the key in the door, and then like just kind of letting the day drain. No. You're kind of living it, aren't you?
Yeah, you live with it. You eat it, you brush your teeth with it, you wake up with it. It's like, it is your life. Yeah. And you're with the people that you work with 24/7. You do get a day off, probably every say 4th day or so, there'll be a day off, and we get a hotel. And on those days, I tend to just hermit. A lot of people will go out and hit the pub or whatever. I'm like, nah, I love you all, and I don't want to see any of you for 24 hours. So
yes. Okay.
Yeah,
because you think like it's that stereotype, isn't it? You think of that rock and roll lifestyle of like just drinking drugs, like just living it to like the full extreme, and that, all that creativity and that output and energy, it's so much to give out that you must have to get some input. You have to fill your cup back up, essentially. Definitely. Don't you?
Yeah. And it depends, different tours have kind of different cultures within them of how inverted commas rock and roll they are. And I got involved big time in my 20s. I did everything that was going, and it's not sustainable. And actually my big passion now is making touring sustainable, not necessarily in an environmental way, although that's important too, but sustainable for the people that are on the road. Because why burn yourself out by poor living habits if you want to continue doing this into your, 50s, 60s, even 70s, I know people in their 70s who are still touring. If you love what you do and you want to continue doing it, you've got to take care of the vehicle. And honestly, after about 30, all that stuff just starts to hurt way too much. So really my passion now is how can we change the culture a little bit so that, yes, look, if people want to go and get themselves fucked up, that's up to them. And if they're showing up and doing their job, and not getting fucked up at work, that's their lookout. But for the people that are actually wanting to make life healthier for themselves and make touring a healthier place to be, that's really what I'm passionate about now, is kind of integrating these ideas of yoga into the touring world to help people be able to continue doing what they do for as long as they want.
Amazing. Because obviously you're supporting the artist, and you're trying to like get everything sorted so that they feel comfortable and they can then go and perform. So does that mean afterwards, like, you're there helping some of the other... Do you lead yoga classes, Becky?
Oh, yeah.
You must do. I'm like, oh my God, it must be bloody fabulous having a yoga instructor.
Every 4 except for one that I've done for the last 12 years, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. That's fantastic. Oh, now I was looking at your book, and I just, like, even the foreword, actually, the person who wrote the foreword, who you've done retreats with, she said it's a travel guide for your own yoga journey, which I was just like, as soon as I read those words, I was like, I think everybody needs this, because yoga, we all know we should be doing it. I think, there's a lot out there now about mindfulness and self-care. And I'm not talking self-care bubble baths or, body lotion or anything like that. Like proper, true, as you say, looking after the vehicle. Like, we've really got to look at what we're doing with our bodies, so we have that sustainable energy for ourselves. And I've learned the hard way. I've learned the hard way, and I burnt out, and now I'm having to rebuild. And so I love how you say yoga is a process of uncovering and revealing rather than acquiring. It's a means of attaining what we already have. Yeah. And when I read that, I was like, maybe it's nothing to be too scared of. Maybe it's nothing to be, when you go to that mat, and like I've tried a couple of times, and I'm like, oh God, am I doing this right? Oh, hang on a minute, am I concentrating? Oh, and now I'm thinking of something else. But when I read those words, I thought, there's something beyond the movement. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. So the thing that I find the most useful thing about yoga is the premise that yoga comes from is that we are made up of, if you can imagine a Russian doll, the little dolls that stack inside each other. We're made up of different layers as humans. So obviously we live in this physical body, but there's the mental and emotional side. Yeah, well, we all know about that. But there's also the energetic side, how we use our energy, whether we're feeling full of beans or completely burnt out, and how we regulate all of that, and how we get our energy, and then there's also the sense of connection with ourselves, and I love this, the work you've done with play therapy, because this last one really is so heavily tied in with that. There's the joy aspect. It's like, how are we actually connecting with the world around us? I'm not talking about hedonism, pleasure seeking, although I've done plenty of that in my time.
Haven't we all?
Joy, the stuff that generally doesn't cost anything, the stuff where you actually feel just in the moment, where you lose track of time and you're just having fun.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think we as a culture we've lost sight of how to play. Like, you watch a kid, they don't need a load of stuff. They don't go and make their own entertainment with twigs and sand and water and, God knows what. Yeah. And they're just in the moment. And that's something that is so vital to us as human beings, because if we're not meeting all of these different aspects of ourselves and nourishing all of them, we're not going to be healthy humans. on any level.
No. And if you think, certainly for people who burn out, and that's certainly something I did, was you're then looking, instead of listening to the warning signs and going, I should have an early night and I shouldn't push myself, and maybe I would have a glass of wine, work even harder and more. And, that's when I think the coping mechanisms we can often naturally gravitate towards sugar and alcohol and shopping and addictions, whatever they are, as opposed to taking that moment to stop and go, okay, what is my body telling me I need? Because I think essentially, like you talk about how our intuition is a part of like where we go when we're on the mat. It's tapping into that. And I think a lot of us, maybe it's just the way we're brought up, Becky, the culture, I don't know, but we tend to go and hit the bottle of wine or the cakes or the shopping or the scrolling or whatever those things are. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because yoga, how long has yoga been? I mean, it's like centuries, isn't it?
Oh, thousands of years.
Yeah.
2.5, well, I mean, at its very roots, 4,000 years, but yeah, 2,500 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's funny, isn't it? How we're not automatically gravitating towards it. What happens? Kids will do it. Kids will listen to themselves. They will take the pleasure from the natural world. Something happens to us that as adults, we then lose that connection. Yeah. I wonder what that is.
I think there's a lot of cultural conditioning that goes on, and we get confused between nourishing and numbing. All the stuff you've just talked about, about the sugar, the wine, the scrolling, the Netflix, it's like taking a big old dose of codeine when actually your body's trying to say, hey, I'm hurting for a reason. Can we look at the injury and not just put the painkiller on? And I think that there's so much numbing behavior that we do. And it's really tempting to dive into a bottle of wine and just numb out on the couch in front of Netflix or whatever. And, I'm not saying there's not space for that in life.
Yes.
But what would it be like if you just went and lay in the garden instead and looked at the clouds? Just had a snooze in the garden. Oh my God, outdoor snoozing is just the best thing in the world. Doesn't matter where you live, just wrap up warm if you live somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you haven't got an outdoor space, go and sit on the ground in the park and don't take your phone with you or keep your phone in your bag. I think spending time in nature is just so nourishing as opposed to numbing out. And there are times where you don't want to feel what you're feeling, and it's totally understandable, and we all sometimes need that escape. But I think it's just useful to be conscious of, is this nourishing me or is this numbing me? And what do I actually need right now?
Oh, that's a good question to ask yourself, because I love what you shared in your resilience video on YouTube. I'll put all the details in the show notes for people so they can have a look as well. It's a really, really good video, Becky. I mean, what is it? 7 minutes, and it is just full to the brim of wisdom. Like obviously I've seen it, and I actually had to watch it again and almost like take in what you were saying, because it's so rich, really good. But you talk a lot about feelings and how it's okay to feel them.
Yeah. Squashing them down they're gonna come back and bite you on the ass eventually. It's just a fact.
It's true.
Again, feelings are there for a reason. They're trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And again, you can numb out mentally from them, but they are trying. They're a message, and it's the same as mental and physical health. If you ignore something for long enough, the messages are going to get louder and louder until eventually you're going to have some sort of breakdown, burnout, massive injury. Because your body's going, it's like a little quiet knock at the door to begin with. And I didn't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
And then it starts shaking the shutters, and it's like, can you hear me now? Are you gonna listen? And eventually it's gonna break in.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. My goodness. Oh. So I'm just thinking, like, have you seen because you also coach, don't you? And so when a client comes to you and they're kind of burnt out, like, where do you start after that initial kind of and rest? What do you kind of advise them to do?
There's three things that I think are really, really important in dealing with burnout. The first is the word no. We're not, especially women, we're not brilliant at using it because we've been conditioned by the society we live in that, we've got to be nice and we've got to be malleable and we've got to, be accommodating of everyone. And where do we get some time for ourselves? Where do we get to say yes to us? And sometimes saying yes to yourself and what's right for you does mean saying no to other people. And so I think it's really handy to have a few little stock phrases in your back pocket that you can use when people ask you to do something that you don't want to do. I mean, I like, I really appreciate you asking me, but that's not going to work for me right now. Or, I'm not taking anything else on right now, but I wish you all the best. If somebody's reaching out on email or something like that.
Fantastic.
Just having a few little things like that are a polite and kind but clear boundary of thanks but no thanks. And it's more difficult when it's friends and family asking you to do things. But I do like the saying, the only people who will have a problem with you having boundaries are those who benefit from you having none.
That's good, isn't it?
I don't know who said that, but it's a juicy one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, because it's so true.
Yeah. So I think we have to get better at using and owning our no to elevate the quality of our yes. Because you can't say yes to everything because you burn out. So that's the first one, I think, is to get comfortable with saying no. Yeah. And get comfortable with the fact that some people aren't going to like it. That's not easy, but it gets easier with practice. And you feel so powerful after you've said a polite but firm no to somebody. It's a good feeling.
I bet. Yes, exactly.
So that's the first one. The second thing I generally ask people is what kind of what movement they're doing. And I'm not talking about hitting the gym. I'm not talking, again, nothing wrong, not hating on hitting the gym if that's your thing. But what movement are you doing that you actually just like? Like, I love going for a walk. That's my thing. I walk for my head. My body just comes along for the ride. But that's kind of my a regular movement that I like to do. Are you dancing or stretching, or are you doing anything that actually just feels nice in your body? Because we can get this real disconnect from our bodies. We know we're these warm little human animals, and we can get so caught up in what the body looks like and all the rest of it that it's like, well, how does my body feel though? How does it feel to be in my body right now? So I ask people, are they moving? If you're not moving in a way that doesn't feel like punishment, then there's a big disconnect going on there.
God, that's powerful.
Yeah. And then the third thing I ask them is, what do you do for fun? And it's devastating, the amount of people who go, nothing really.
Oh my God.
That's a big one. Where's the fun? Where's the joy? Again, we get caught up in this thing of being responsible adults and forgetting to play. Yeah. So a really useful thing to take people back to then is like, okay, what did you love to do as a kid? Mm-hmm. And then people light up and they remember, playing with animals, or I liked colouring in, or I liked flying a kite, or making up dance routines, or, all sorts of stuff that they then go, but I couldn't do that now. It's like, why?
Yes.
What's stopping you from doing that now? And there's this sort of slight awkwardness of, it's a bit silly, isn't it? It's like, and why is that a bad thing? What's wrong with silly? What's wrong with being a bit silly? What's wrong with doing something unproductive just for the hell of it? And you can sometimes see a little light start to go on. So their project when they go home will be, what are you going to do for fun this week that doesn't benefit anybody else and is completely unproductive?
Oh, it's so true. I love that. Like, thankfully, a year later, my answers would be different. But a year before, bloody hell, Becky, like, they would have been bad. They would have been, I don't do anything for myself. I actually don't know what I do for fun. Like, it would have been. I love what you say. You walk for your head and your body just comes along. That's fantastic. It's so true. Walking's a good one. Walking really helped me when I'd have those tight anxiety chests. They would always ease. Like after 8K, I'd be like, oh, it's going now. It's like your body has no choice other than to just, relax, take in the elements. It just feeds you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's just a simple, rhythmic, repetitive thing that you know how to do. You don't have to think about it.
So when someone's, because you say like yoga shows us how to remember and it gives us access to our own constant yoga retreat inside ourselves. And I thought that was so cool because, obviously I am not a yoga, like I have not got a great amount of experience with yoga, but the thought of having something innate within me that can be therapeutic, can be relaxing, can be calming for my nervous system. How, for someone like me, what would you say? Like when they're on the mat, how would you get them to engage with that within themselves?
The first thing I'll generally get somebody to do if they're kind of wound up is move. Basically, like a dickhead.
I love it.
Jiggle about and just literally just jiggle about like a nutter and waggle your arms and legs. And because if you're feeling stressed out, your body is primed to do something and you're full of stress hormones. And if you try and just sit still at that point and go meditate, I must keep my mind still, and that's actually not what it's about anyway, but that's what people think, you're on a hiding to nothing. So the first thing I'll get somebody to do is shake it off. Bit of tay-tay, just literally just jiggle around like a nutter. Put a great song on. Stick some Banana Rama on or something.
Yes! Oh my God!
And just dance around like a loony for a few minutes, and that really helps to dissipate things. And then I'll get them to sit down or more likely lie down.
Okay.
And just start to tune into what they can actually feel in their body. Like, what do I feel if I wiggle my toes? Where's my body touching the mat? What's the air temperature like? Those sorts of things, just noticing those little sensory bits of information. Because there's a real misconception about meditation is, that it's about sitting still and quietening your mind. Your mind is just doing what human minds do. The thing with meditation is actually that you're observing that activity. Because at first, when you sit down, you're going to feel like you are the thoughts, and you're sharing your room with a crazy person, and these thoughts are you and define you. And gradually, as you start to notice, first of all, noticing what you're feeling in your body, then you sit and you start to just allow your mind to do whatever it's doing. And gradually, you can start to notice that you can watch your mind a bit like it's on a projector screen. It's like, okay, well, if I can watch that, it's not me. It's just like a show reel that's going on, and my mind trying to remind me of all the things I've got to do so I don't forget to do them, and it's just trying to keep me safe. But actually, meditation is just starting to get that little bit of distance between the activity of your mind and the place inside that can watch. And that's what I mean about it being like a yoga retreat within yourself, because once that penny drops and you're like, oh, okay, I'm actually the one that's doing the watching. I am not the thoughts. I'm having the thoughts, but I am not the thoughts. And then that's like a big moment. It's like, then I can then I know that's inside me. That's actually who I am. And so then you start to get a bit of perspective and stop taking yourself so fucking seriously, to be honest. I mean, I'm a bugger for doing it. If I get caught up in the thoughts and, think every thought I have matters a very great deal, and everything I'm going to do that day to day matters a very great deal. Actually, does it? Some things matter more than others, of course. But it helps me to just have that little bit of space and a little bit of perspective that goes, hang on a minute, am I actually just getting caught up here? How much does this, is this going to matter next week? Is it going to matter in a month? Is it going to matter in a year?
Yeah, it's so easy to get your knickers in a twist, isn't it, about something?
Yeah,
oh my God, I can have something at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, I am on the ceiling, Becky, because she can really start. I can remember, I think it was Bryony Gordon. Maybe it was an Instagram post, maybe it was a podcast or one of her books. I can't remember, but I can remember a few years ago when she said, you are not your thoughts. I nearly fell off my chair. I was like, oh my God, it's so true, isn't it? And I think, with burnout, I'm a big believer, and I wrote about this because I'm now a year on from kind of having to stop and really look at myself. And I think, unless you start to unpack all these behaviors and patterns and things and choices, lifestyle choices, unless you're willing to look at those, and as you say, notice them and observe them, be the observer as opposed to just continuing the pattern. I think unless you do that, you're going to end up back in burnout again.
Yeah.
After that recovery period, after washing this country for 3 weeks with just chocolate buttons as a duvet, you're going to end up just back on square one. You have to, I think it's almost a bit of a gift. You have this chance to, it's like going into, half time of the football match and going into the locker room and you're like, okay, right, what worked, what didn't, okay, now let's move on. And I think but that's really interesting with the meditation and the yoga, is that it really does does it nudge you towards being the observer?
And nudges you towards noticing how you're spending your time and how you're spending your energy, and exactly that thing of what you say, are you going to learn the lessons that have come to you as a result of something really, really crappy, and use that as an opportunity to make a change? Or are you going to be like the junkie who goes into rehab, gets out of rehab and goes straight back into shooting up? Because that's essentially what we're doing if you just go straight back into the same lifestyle that got you burnt out in the first place.
Yeah, I can remember going to a talk of a CEO, and he had built up this wellness company, and he'd burnt out. And so he'd gone to somewhere beautiful, India, Malaysia, somewhere lovely, and had spent a month in doing a program and yoga and meditation. And you can just imagine how blissful it was. But he said he went right back to the boardroom. He was all good. He ignored the warning signs again. So he's like, oh, I'm okay. I've just been off for a month. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'm just getting into it again, getting into the groove of working. And obviously he burnt out again. He had to completely change. And actually, I think he said that benefited the company, and now he's, a leader who's advocating rest and mental health.
That's
and all that.
He's able to go back into the role, but show up in a completely different way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we need to be doing. And I think whether you've had a little burnout, whether you're just exhausted, whether you're just at a point where you're thinking, I don't know, is this what I want anymore?
Yeah.
Do I want to do this anymore? Don't hit rock bottom. Don't wait to go there before you do something.
Yeah, pay attention to the red flags. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. And you talk about the monkey mind a lot in your videos and in your posts, because I think it's something that can really consume us, can't it?
Oh, completely. Yeah. And it's the difficulty is that we get confused, and again, this is a very central premise of yoga, is the main causes of suffering in humans. The root is that we forget who we are, in terms of we forget that we're actually that yoga retreat inside of ourselves. And instead we get caught up in identifying with our thoughts and with the labels that we wear, of I'm a CEO, I'm a mum, I'm a, the jobs that we do and the labels we stick on ourselves. Like, we get caught up in identifying with those and thinking that we are those. And so we get ourselves into all sorts of trouble.
We do. And so is that grounding then, Becky? Is that when we have to then kind of step back and look at ourselves and then try and ground ourselves? Is that what it is? I'm so new to all of this. You can tell I'm learning all of this. Is that what grounding is?
Grounding is how long have we got?
I know, I'm sorry, love.
Grounding 101. It is about connecting yourself with reality. And I don't mean reality as in I've got 250 emails in my inbox and but actually your visceral experience of right here, right now. So one of the really nice, just quick kind of a meditation, not really a meditation, little things I like to do is to get people to check in with each of their senses.
Right.
What can I see? What can I hear? And that's a big one, because just to stop and listen for a moment to what you can hear is really, that gets you back into your body, that grounds you, it gets you back, gets your feet back on the ground, gets you back into the present moment. What can I taste anything in my mouth? Can I smell anything? What can I feel on my skin? And it's just a little scan that, it takes under a minute, but it gets you out of that, that kind of feeling when you're almost kind of up above yourself and everything's kind of spinning out.
Yeah.
It puts your feet back on the ground and gets you back into this body in the only time that exists, which is right now, because we're absolute buggers for living in the past, ruminating about the past and worrying about the future.
Yeah, been there, done that.
We have things we can learn from the past, and of course we need to make plans for things that that are going to happen in the future, we think. But actually, when the future happens, it will be now. The only time that actually exists ever is now. Yeah. So where am I right now? I can be planning something, but be in the now. I can be physically aware of my body, physically aware that I'm sitting here talking to you, rather than letting my mind running away with me about what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah,
that's what grounding is.
Right. Okay. So I'm just thinking, when you were talking about the labels and how we can kind of get very focused on those. So I'm just thinking, my boys are teens now, but when they were younger, it was very easy to kind of be in the moment with them and then be thinking, okay, I need to wash this and then do the dinner and then we've got to sort this out and then I've got to, as opposed to just sitting there and actually just doing whatever we were doing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just like coming back to that moment.
Yeah, because, there's sort of stuff of everyday life. Yes, it's all going to happen, but everything that needs to get done will get done.
Yeah.
And we'd skip out on actually ever being present in our own lives. And it's a tragedy, actually, because we're so busy worrying about the past or worrying about the future that we miss out on the only thing that actually exists in favour of living in this unhappy fantasy world.
Yeah. It's funny, I can remember I was told by, he was the guy who worked at the post office, and you know how there's these people in the community, and I swear they're like angels. They're just these people who just do their, they're there in the community doing the stuff, but they just, I don't know, there's something about this guy at the post office. I just adore him. And he said to me, we were talking one day, chatting, and he said, oh, all we have actually is now. That's all we have. And I can remember when he said that, I was just like, whoo. Well, that's just told me to, like, you know, calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like, stop doing 50 things at once. Just do one at a time. You know? Yes. Yeah.
Because life just comes at you in a series of consecutive moments, but they're all now. So yeah, I love the guy at the post office. He's cool.
Oh my God, I love him too. He really is. He's one of those special people that I'm just like, and you know what? I'm not the only one. He must speak to so many every day, but he must just give these little nuggets of wisdom to so many people. I'm like, oh, incredible guy. Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's fascinating, isn't it, Becky? It really is. And this is where, you know, it's so good you've written this book. And it's The Yoga Journey, a contemporary guide to a timeless tradition. I think it's so good because I think just so we don't associate yoga with, you know, a certain way of, or it's just you know what?
Bendy chicks and lycra.
Yes, it's that, or it's a bloody thing to do on the to-do list.
Yes. Oh God.
You know what I mean? You know how we can sometimes put self-care on the to-do list and it becomes like another chore.
Yeah.
Whereas I think your book is really like it's embodying it. It's a way of living. I think you say, don't you? It helps us lead our best possible lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it helps us to. I mean, look, this has been around for thousands of years. Yeah. Humans have been like this forever.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, other people are experiencing this too. Other people have experienced this too. And some people figured out that maybe there's a way out of this self-created drama and suffering that we put ourselves into. And maybe it's all not that complicated. Maybe we complicate it. That's what I mean about we put stuff on top of what's actually very simple. You know, and it is a process of uncovering what's actually the simplicity of just being here. I mean, there's a fabulous book called The Untethered Soul.
Yes.
By Michael A. Singer. Do you know it?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I love that book.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he says it so beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. It's I guess again it's that becoming the observer. It's slowing down. It's looking to nourish your life, nourish your soul, like nourish yourself, as opposed to depleting it at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, goodness me. So for someone who's listened to this and they're like, okay, maybe I will give yoga a little try. What would you recommend to them as to start off? Would you recommend to go to a studio and have someone lead you? Would you say just try a little bit at home? What would you kind of recommend?
I think if you can get to a good experienced teacher, then that is certainly when you're starting out, that's preferable, because purely from a safety point of view,
right,
you can fall into bad habits with, you know, doing things with your body that you may not yet have the ability to do, or that might not be right for your body. There are lots of different sorts of yoga, so going gently and doing a bit of research, you know, if you know anybody locally who might be into it, that they can give you recommendations. I think that's a really good place to start. That said, not everybody has access to be able to go in person classes, and of course with the lockdowns and everything that we've had, that hasn't been, you know, a possibility. So there is a lot of good stuff online. I personally really like a website called glow.com, GLO. Okay. And they have loads and loads of different really good teachers, and you can stream different classes that you can filter according to whether you've got anything from 5 minutes to 2 hours, whether you want something very gentle, whether you just want some meditation. You can filter by all sorts of different things, and it's really fantastic. So if you're not able to get to a regular class in person, then that can be a good place to start. But if you can possibly have a regular class in person, that's great. The other thing you can do as well is find a yoga teacher who's offering online either classes or private tuition, because something I do like to do is offer little sort of tune-ups with people. So somebody who's practicing alone a lot might just come to me just completely for a one-off, go, hey, would you mind just having a look at how I'm doing downward dog? Am I mucking up my shoulders?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really
Becky.
handy just to have somebody check out what you're doing to make sure you're not doing any harm.
Right. Yeah.
So that can be quite useful if you can just, have one class with somebody. Again, it's great if you can do it in person, but we can make Zoom work if, you just do a bit of messing around with where you're putting your screen so the teacher can see you properly, and just make sure you're not falling into any bad habits.
Oh, that's fantastic. Gosh, that's good to know. Yes. That's brilliant. And is there anything within yoga that you would recommend to people recovering from burnout? Are there certain practices or positions, or is there anything that you can be like, you know what, I would do these things?
I would, yes, restorative yoga is just wonderful. Restorative yoga there's two very slow forms of yoga. One is called yin yoga. Yin yoga is about releasing body fascia and going for quite a deep stretch, but you stay in positions for quite a long time. It can be quite uncomfortable, and that's your body releasing. It's different from restorative yoga. Restorative yoga is about sometimes I'm going to get shot by other yoga teachers for this. I sometimes call it lying around in different shapes.
Ooh, lovely.
It's not true.
Fantastic.
What we're actually doing in restorative yoga is using a load of props, stuff that you've got at home, pillows, blankets, all that, rolled up towels.
Yeah.
Putting your body into different positions, and you might just do 4 or 5 positions in the space of a class. That's something a very gentle forward bend, very gentle back bend, a very gentle twist, a very gentle side stretch. But you're supporting every part of your body with different props, so that you then just literally relax into the shape that you're in. There's no sense of stretch, and what it's doing is working on the very deep layers of muscles that really hold the deep-seated tension.
Okay.
And you'll generally have somebody talking you through maybe some sort of guided visualization or guided breathing. And it's just the absolute gold standard for recovery from burnout. It is beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And then the other one that's really great is something called yoga nidra, which translates as yogic sleep. You don't actually go to sleep, but it's a very, very deep guided form of relaxation. And all you do is you get really comfy and you lie down and you listen to the guidance and just follow along. You don't concentrate too hard. You just let your attention follow along. You move your attention around different parts of your body, and there'll be different structures according to how long you're doing it for, who's doing it. But what it does is put you into a very deep brainwave state, the delta brainwave state, which you normally only get to experience when you're dreaming, when you're asleep. But you actually go there and you remain conscious. And when you first start to do it, you might fall asleep. But the idea is that you remain loosely conscious, and you're sort of in this liminal state between sleep and waking. And it's incredibly deeply healing for your nervous system. It's fabulous. And there's my yoga nidra teacher is a woman called Uma Dinsmore-Tooley, and she has a website called the yoganidranetwork.org, and there's loads of different ones on there that you can listen to for free, and it's just brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. You've just given us all this gold, Becky. This is amazing. I keep firing these questions at you because I'm like, and what else can I ask? This is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, restorative yoga and yoga nidra are fabulous for burnout.
Okay. Oh, incredible. And I know you've written a lot about breathing and how important that is to, kind of soothing that nervous system and bringing us back. Is there anything that you'd recommend in regards to breath work?
Yeah, I mean, the most straightforward, simple one is breathe out for longer than you breathe in.
Okay.
When you're anxious. Basically, your inhale and exhale are like the accelerator and the brake on a car. So your inhale is the accelerator. It's bringing in energy and vitality, and then your exhale is calming you down and balancing you out, and putting you in the relaxation response. And in a healthy system, we're breathing in and out for the same length of time so that the system is balanced. So you're not steaming ahead and you're not, going nowhere. You've got this nice balance going on. Generally, if we're anxious, we'll find that we're barely breathing out. We're barely breathing in either.
Yes.
But you can take a nice full inhale and then breathe out really long. That'll calm your system down. Now, if you're suffering from adrenal fatigue or from burnout, you might need to emphasize the depth of your inhale as well as the length of your exhale. So that's when it can be really useful to be working one-on-one with a yoga therapist or a yoga teacher, because we do have this fantastic ability with our breath to regulate our body's energy, because it's the one system in our bodies, breathing, that is both involuntary and voluntary. So you breathe all the time, whether you think about it or not, and we can take conscious control of it to affect different effects within ourselves. So it's this amazing tool that's always with us.
Oh my goodness. I have never heard anyone explain it that way before. That is brilliant. Oh my God, I'm going to be telling that to my kids. Listen to what Becky said. This is fantastic.
My favourite little trick for when I'm stressed out is this is one the cigarette companies don't want you to know. Think of how somebody breathes when they're having a cigarette. Mm-hmm. They take a short, sharp inhale, pause, and then they go.
I miss it. Yes.
What the cigarette companies don't want you to know is not the cigarette that's bloody calming you down. It's how you're breathing. So if
my gosh.
If you take a relatively short, sharp inhale, pause for just a brief moment at the top, and then blow it out through pursed lips for as long as you can, it immediately relaxes you. So anytime I'm feeling stressed or about something, that's my go-to for a few rounds of breath. And it's like magic. Oh
my God, you're right. You're right. Maybe I don't miss the nicotine after all. Maybe it's the breathing. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. So what would you say has been the most, it's probably going to be difficult for you to home in on a few of them, but what has been the most profound things that your yoga journey has brought to your life, Becky?
Holy mackerel, that's a big question.
I know, that's a little bit too deep, isn't it?
I'm going to give a one-word answer and say balance.
Oh.
Balance.
Okay. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
incredible.
getting all the parts of different parts of my life and different parts of myself. I guess integration, if I was going to use another word. Yeah, balance and integration.
Okay, yeah.
Getting everything working in harmony with each other.
Incredible. Oh my goodness. I think you're inspiring us all to now start to really... I'm looking at my yoga mat here going, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow morning.
It's calling, Flic.
Come on, love, you can do it.
You know what is the best trick ever for getting on your yoga mat? Trick yourself into it. You just go and lie on it. I'm not necessarily going to do anything. I'm just going to go and lie on it and see what happens. And if all that happens is that you lie on it and you have a little nap for 10 minutes, well, you needed it. And maybe if what happens is you have a little stretch and that feels quite nice. And, oh, yeah, that feels. And before you know it, stuff might be starting to happen, and you might be just moving around, like Kylie Minogue says, just playing around and feeling what feels nice.
Oh, you're so right. Because we're almost conditioned to, well, if you're like me, you're conditioned to go, okay, well, if I do my elliptical trainer, I need to do 30 minutes and I need to then do 40. You have like goals, don't you? You have like these oppressive, like, you must do this. Pointy fingers pointing at you. You're right. The yoga mat's not like that. You know, I've got a good friend. She's gone on an incredible transformative journey with yoga. It's been an absolute privilege to watch her do this. And she says the same as you. She says, you know what? Even if I just spend some time in child's pose, it's all good. Yeah, you're right. Even if we just lie down, worst that's going to happen is you have a little 10-minute nap.
Yeah. Just have no expectations. Just get on it and see what happens. And if nothing happens, that's fine.
Oh, I love that, Becky. Okay. My yoga mat sat here going, nice one. That's fantastic. And balance. It's about having the balance. Yeah. And you've said this in a video, haven't you? You've said, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a glass of red wine or doing whatever, but it's doing it in moderation. It's doing what your body needs.
Yeah. I mean, having said that, I have given up alcohol a while back, and I have to say it is one of the best things I've done for myself.
Really?
Yeah. I do now feel like it's trying to do things in moderation with what is essentially a addictive substance is a big ask.
It is a big ask.
Maybe this is just, well, it's not just me, but maybe this is me, and maybe it's easier for some people to moderate than others. But I'm one of those that if you give me one, I want 5 of anything, really.
This is delicious. Yeah.
If I don't have the first one, I'm never going to have the 5th one. You know, it's just easier, I find, not to have any.
Yeah.
And, you know, yes, it is nice, that feeling of taking the edge off. It is numbing. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's what you want to do. But for me, just going, okay, would my body actually choose this, though?
Yeah.
Has been... I just like the feeling of waking up feeling smug, if I'm honest. To wake up feeling smug rather than slightly disappointed with myself.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but as an expat, I noticed when I moved to Canada how much alcohol is part of that British culture. Like, I actually really missed, I was shocked that there wasn't a pub on every corner here. And I was shocked at when you went to a pub, how you were served and you were sitting down, you wouldn't go to the bar. Like, I was like, oh my God. And then when you watch like Coronation Street, EastEnders, they've all, they're centred around a pub, aren't they? So it's a real part of what we grew up with.
It's a massive part of the culture, and there's you know, there's a drink for every occasion and all the rest of it. And I love British pubs. That's one of the things I miss about being in Australia is I love a British pub. But what I've recently discovered, which it took me a long time to come to this realisation, is that you can have a drink that doesn't have alcohol in it. I didn't know that. I didn't know you could do that.
It's true. It's true.
And you know, I'm not finding it so much down in Oz, but in the UK, some of the non-alcoholic beers that are coming out now are great. They taste really nice. So I like that end of the day feeling of it, you know, cracking a cold beer or having a glass of wine or whatever. But it's like, okay, well, does it necessarily have to have alcohol in it though?
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I got the wind put up me when I read the World Health Organization in 2016 classified alcohol as a class 1 carcinogen, up there with asbestos and tobacco.
Really? I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that until fairly recently. I was like, fucking hell, that's not good. You don't hear about that.
No, you don't.
So, I mean, you know, again, yes, a glass of wine is very nice. And if that's your thing and you're doing it in moderation, then, you know, more power to you. And just, you know, as long as you're doing it consciously, that's, you know, just the choices you make are choices. That's ultimately what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's making choices that make you feel better.
Mm.
So I think that's the end game, isn't it? So whatever you choose, you actually want to feel better. And if that's actually having a kombucha instead of a sparkling wine, and you know, it's, as you say, like, things are changing. My dad, about 15 years ago, about that, he my dad, he would always have a glass of beer when he came home from work, and it was just a routine. And then he had a series of epileptic seizures, and so to then control that it just came out of the blue, and it was obviously something that was there from birth. But his obviously his epilepsy nurse said, well, the triggers are XYZ and alcohol, and so from that day on he stopped. And I've always really admired that. But he will now have a non-alcoholic beer. So he will, like, oh gosh, you can tell he's Northern. Like, he'll have his cheese and onion sandwich with a non-alcoholic beer. Can't you just taste it? I grew up on cheese and onion sandwiches. Like, can't you just taste it? It's just delicious. So it just goes to show. But I did not know that.
Scary, hey?
That is scary. That really is.
But it's such big business that we don't hear about it.
Huge business. And I think, gosh, we've all kind of used different coping strategies to get through the pandemic. And I know alcohol was a huge one for a lot of people, wasn't it?
Yeah, myself included, for sure.
Yes. In fact, here they made, because in Canada you have to go to a separate shop. You don't just buy booze from the supermarket. You don't just go to Tesco. You have to go to LCBO. You have to go to the wine shop or the beer store. And they made it like those essential services because it was a big thing for people's lives. But I think as we're coming out of the pandemic, we've all had time to look and see what serves us and what doesn't. And
that is ultimately what it's all about, isn't it? Is this going to long term make me feel better or worse?
Yeah.
What serves us, what doesn't, and that's going to be different for everyone. But really getting honest with yourself about what that is huge.
Yes. Yeah. Incredible. Oh my gosh, Becky, I could sit and talk to you all day. There's so much about, I mean, it's just fascinating. And your book's just, some of the things you said, but I love how you say it's nothing less than a complete system to live in our best possible lives. That kind of sent like shivers on my arms when I read that, because I was like, oh, okay. It's not just something to do on the to-do list. It's you integrate it into your life. Yeah. Amazing. Oh, Becky, this has been fantastic. It really has. Oh my gosh. Now, I don't know if you're up for it. I've been asking all my guests at the end just some quick fire, light-hearted questions, because everyone answers differently. And so if you're up for it, okay then, darling. So on your dodgy, tough days, do you have lemon in water or lemon in gin? Where do you take vitamin C, love?
It is the lemon in water now.
Yes. Yeah.
Or more likely a kombucha. I do like a kombucha.
Oh my God, I do. There's something about, it's just delicious. And you always feel so good afterwards, don't you?
Yeah. And the fact that it's a little bit expensive makes it feel like a treat.
It's so true. It's so true. Exactly. Now, I know the answer to this one. Do you move your body or move the remote?
I would probably go for a walk. I've never, ever gone for a walk and then gone, I wish I hadn't done that, ever.
So true, yeah.
So I'll probably move my body. But then look, Grey's Anatomy. I'm all about it. So go for a walk and then Grey's Anatomy. So both.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't lose with both. Double whammy. Okay, bag of almonds or bag of Maltesers?
I'm going to go off-piste and say actually toast and Marmite.
Oh my God, Becky, Marmite.
In front of Grey's Anatomy after a walk. Yes.
Oh my God. I was thinking of Marmite the other day. I was like, when you just make some toast, you're like, oh, you know what? To hit the spot with this, baby. A little bit of
Can you get it there?
No, you can go to like British and Irish stores, they say, like you can import it, but it's not standard. And I just, Marmite just hits a spot,
Good
doesn't
stuff.
it, darling?
Yeah.
So bloody good. Okay, I agree with that one. Okay, do you ask for help or are you happy to hermit?
I'm really bad at asking for help.
I'm awful. I'm working on it.
I'm working on being discerning about asking for help, because there's not a lot of people actually that are great at holding space for just you letting off steam. A lot of people, well-meaning, but they'll like try and fix, or they'll offer platitudes, or they'll do the, well, at least this, that, or the other thing. And actually, although they mean well, it doesn't help. So I'm getting better at asking a small select group of people for help, but I generally don't like to crowd out with too many voices.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I completely understand that. And now then, what's the one self-compassionate thing you're going to do today that your future self is going to thank you for?
Oh, I think I am probably going to go for a nice long walk in a minute.
Oh, lovely. Are you near the sea? Are you like near forest? Where's your favourite spot?
Sort of parkland. So we're not far out of the city, but there's a beautiful big park where we just moved to. So I'm going to take myself off for a nice long walk around there.
Okay, yeah.
And then because we've got a really nice spot to sit outside, I'm probably going to have an afternoon snooze in the open air this afternoon, because I just love it.
Oh my God, good for you. Good for you. Fresh air. Oh, Becky, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. I have learned so much, and I know everyone listening has learned so much. It's been fantastic. And now, where can people find your work? I will put lots of all the details in the show notes, but is there anything you would like to share with us where we can find you?
So the thing that gets updated most often is Instagram. So I'm rockandroll_yogi on there. You can find my book, Yoga Journey, A Contemporary Guide to a Timeless Tradition, on Amazon worldwide in both ebook and hard copy. And my website is rockandrollyogi.com.
Amazing. Oh, it's fantastic. Darling, thank you. It's just so lovely talking to a lovely northern lass.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this. It's been very nourishing.
I do feel bad. I was like throwing questions at you because I'm just so curious, and you can tell I'm at the beginning of a journey, so I'm like trying to find out as much as possible. So that was just bloody brilliant. Thank you, darling.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you take care.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Everyday Burnout Conversations. Please check the show notes for any links to items discussed today, and the original music and sound editing is by Chris Taylor. If you've enjoyed this podcast and have a spare few minutes, then it would be absolutely amazing if you could leave me a happy starry rating and review. It really does help this podcast reach a little further, and I'd just love it to land in the lap of those who, like me, last year are perhaps feeling isolated and lonely in their burnout struggle. Please note, this podcast is not intended as medical advice. Remember, you matter, so don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor or mental health professional for support if you're having a rough time. Wishing you a great week and take good care of yourself. Bye for now.